Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about London Fashion Week. Coucou, my name is Anastasia and welcome to my YouTube channel. It is a second Fashion Week video in a row, but you know, it's a fashion month, what can I do? While the memories of all of the runway shows that I watch are still very much so fresh in my memory, let's talk about everything that I have deemed worthy of your attention in terms of the London Fashion Week. Starting as per usual, it is with London with my beloved Harris Reed. So this particular collection is giving much more whimsical witch, shall I say, than like the usual golden goddess. And honestly, no thanks to, frankly speaking, the unusual amount of colors and prints which are not commonly used over here. Also, the theatricality and even, shall I say, the circus appeal that I talked about and that was present during the New York Fashion Week kind of continues well into the London, which totally makes sense in this particular case, considering that A, it is kind of in the nature of the brand, and B, the inspo behind the collection. I'm gonna be quoting Vogue here. Collection was inspired by the dolls that Harris Reed, fashioned from stacks of Vogues and National Geographics as a child. As far as I'm concerned, Harris Reed can do no wrong as long as he provides these architecturous wonders of design that he literally became famous for. Next we have a less well-known name, but one of my favorites nonetheless, and I'm talking about Bora Aksu. And honestly, my first thoughts watching the show was just how absolutely and utterly adorable the collection is. Like, if the models walked with the puppies, I would be down there in tears. So basically it's a Victorian child meets fashion enthusiast, and if you know one thing about me, you know that I'm definitely here for the outcome of this union. Also, a note to think on is that London seems to be kind of making a new name for itself in terms of this kind of romantic maximalism, which has kind of been continuously growing alongside with, you know, a period drama, like historical fashion on TikTok, crown core, cottage core, fairy core. Like, you get the point. There are a lot of romantic style involved aesthetics of the internet as of right now. And when I think about London in terms of the names, Bora Aksu, we've got Molly Goddard, we've got Simone Rocha, we've got Richard Quinn. All of these designers has made themselves famous being a part of the romantic style, whether they are drawing the inspiration from the childhood or from the historical eras. Like, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that they all can kind of be put into this category of the romantic maximalism, and they all reside within the London Fashion Week. Moving on to someone that couldn't be, well, further from the romantic maximalism, but David Koma. This one kind of sits better with me than the past couple of his shows. And honestly, it might be due to the lacking color palette of, well, basically black, white and red. There were also pops of blue, which I didn't really like the shade of that particular blue, but they were easily ignored on my part. Also might be the fact that collection was inspired by contemporary dancers. If you look closely, it's Chanel little ballerinas, but more, you know, minimal, rawer, edgier, I suppose you can say. Evening furs and feathers, well, albeit for once, are officially back, as you probably all knew they would be, from the 1930s Hollywood starlets and 1950s, also Hollywood, but, you know, with a new wave of bombshell, and also like the way Christian Dior incorporated fur into his new look silhouette. Then it turned back again in the 1990s with the heroin chic, Karl Lagerfeld making Fendi cool again, Kate Moss walking out and about in the nightgown and the fur, like, you know, the deal. Turned to South End, that was, well, less about elegance and more about like pink fur, think Paris Hilton. It is safe to say that mop wife aesthetic was kind of an inevitable turn of events. Well, that was a short impromptu fashion history note on the evening furs, but we are moving on to the Simone Rocha, and weirdly enough, like, while the rest of the world seemed to start taking liking to the more theatrical side of fashion as well as the romantic narrative, basically the queen of these qualities herself has decided to tune things down, go minimal. Well, you know, not a minimal of course, but as minimal as she could go, I suppose. But still, like, while still romantic and, you know, featuring some lace lace and baby doll dresses here and there. The collection feels more demure, like with all the tailoring, and also like a deliberate minimalism to the styling. There is also something like macabre about it, more of like a Canterville ghost, and the exact point of my reference here is the 1970s USSR cartoon of the same naming. Now we have my love, my heart, the brilliant of the London Fashion Week, Richard Quinn, of course, and 2 seasons in a row now he has been bringing back one of my favorite fashion eras, 1950s obviously, alongside with, you know, well-known Dior silhouettes, also kind of Christian's love for flowers, which honestly Richard Quinn was also a fan of a flower print well before his 1950s references, so you know, the point of who the flower inspo belongs to in this case is, well, kind of arguable, but I would just settle down on a happy union of coincidence. Also, I absolutely cannot wait to see these dresses all over the red carpets. Another brilliant of London, but in a totally different direction, is J.W. Anderson, and I am thrilled. Like, if not for the fact that Jonathan Anderson will make people want hilarious things like old school knitted underwear as outerwear, sloppy styling with the woolen slipper, as opposed to like all the other 2 choices, but even more so I thrilled that my favorite grandma, grandpa aesthetic is officially making a comeback. Because, you know, after Jonathan does it, everybody also will. On the smaller or the bigger scale, that is debatable, but they will. Albeit I do prefer my grandma-grandpa aesthetic being a little bit more put together, but this sloppy take is also very fun. Like, it's more whimsical, more cartoonish, and I probably should have mentioned that the main inspiration for this particular collection was a British comedy TV show about pensioners in Yorkshire. It's called Last of the Summer Wine. I have never watched it, but now that I've seen the collection, I have a feeling that I might as well. Next we have Dilara Findikoglu, and if the previous 2 are the brilliant London Fashion Week, she is Miss Extravaganza of London. But you know, with that she also wasn't free of the Victorian influences this season. Not gonna lie, I'm quite happy about it. So the inspiration is an imagined world where patriarchy basically didn't exist. It wasn't overcome or overthrown. No. It simply never came to be. And I mean, the concept is appealing, like creating a thought experiment where you just take out of the society structure as you know it one of its basically pillars, however good or bad it might be, and then you try to figure out how it would look like. It's probably even more interesting trying to translate this thought experiment into, you know, the clothing medium. All the 37 looks of this femme vortex, that is how the collection is named, giving more of an insight to the thought process and the whole collection. They're all named, and you know, you can find this particular piece of information on the Dilara's Instagram. During the overview of the London Fashion Week, I'm not sitting here discussing each and every one of the 37 looks she presented. But if you have an hour, it will worth your time. Next is Yuhan Wang. It's black and white. It has Victorian inspirations. It has preppy vibe, also overall dark romance mood. What's not to like? With that being said, the collection was inspired by, you're not gonna expect it, but a woman in law. At that point of reading the interview, I started to mentally protest, but then designer added in history. So basically, woman in law in history. Historical woman in law. No, woman in law during the history. That is the correct one. After that point, it rapidly started making much more sense. So the brand's always kind of present whimsicality. I want to say that it's giving Alice in Wonderland's judging court, and yes, it was a judging court if you do not remember, had a lawyer. This is how it would be. And the last but not the least, always closing the London Fashion Week, we have Burberry by Daniel Lee. It might be due to the fact that it's a fall-winter collection. Might be that Daniel Lee is still kind of finding his footing, adopting to the brand identity, and simultaneously developing his own vision of it, yada yada, you know the deal. Might also be that quite luxury trend influence and, you know, brand CEOs obviously desiring to get a piece of this particular cake. Not surprising at all. If anything, I'm honestly only shocked by how long If that is once again the case, they have put that off for, or might be that they, as in they in Burberry, are finally listening to the customers. But so far, this is the best, no argument involved whatsoever, the best I have seen from Daniel Lee and Burberry, and I know it's an unpopular opinion. That is wholly depending on what people are looking forward in clothes, what excites them, etc, etc. Speaking of which, my opinion on the matter, besides, you know, the personal style preferences, is that making brand younger, as in off-white street style fashion, is clearly not working for such brand as Burberry. And just, you know, let's be honest here, it never really worked for them. Obviously, Riccardo Tisci had his moment, but it was, well, a moment. A couple of seasons of street styling the Burberry. What I mean to say is that it's clearly has not been working for them in the long run. So maybe, just, you know, maybe they're ready to try something new, like, you know, a crazy thought over here, but leaning a little bit more into their heritage. Thank you very much. And with that, we are saying goodbye to the London Fashion Week. So let's pick our favorites. Once again, if we are only doing 3, I would definitely put Richard Quinn here. I would definitely put Simone Rocha here, and I think either Bora Aksu or Yuhan Wang, because I have enjoyed both of their collections equally, and to be completely honest, for the very same reasons. So that would be that. Milan Fashion Week will be coming shortly next week, hopefully, if I'm fast about it. But other than that, if you like this video, you can subscribe to this channel or something. Also, leave me a like, check out my other social medias if you like the vibes, and I'll see you in the next one. So, bye!